Welcome back. We just heard from the Natural Resources Defense Council on a Supreme Court decision that environmentalists fear will make the country's aquatic landscape vulnerable to development and extinction. Joining us with a local perspective on the Sackett decision from the Maynard Nexsen law firm is shareholder Mary Shahid. We're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
So, I want to make a quick distinction. When we're talking about wetlands, you know, the picture behind you of the Pitt Street Bridge, it's a beautiful vision that it echoes throughout the state of South Carolina. What is the difference between what we see behind you versus what is losing its protection through the Sackett decision?
So what's behind us are photographs of tidal wetlands that are, tidal salt marsh. And it's very similar to freshwater wetlands in that it provides significant habitat and, performs multiple functions. But tidal wetlands will hopefully always be protected. They're very clearly protected in South Carolina through the South Carolina Coastal Zone Management Program. Also, tidal wetlands will always be waters of the United States. There won't be any, isolated wetland or adjacent wetland discussion. If they're tidal, they're always waters of the United States. So they're subject to protection and are not threatened now.
Okay, so that's a salt marsh, but
yes.
What we're looking at are the freshwater
Right.
marshes, and those are the ones that are losing federal protection.
Depending on how you look at it. Yes, it is, you're correct, it is the freshwater wetlands. And the Sackett decision required for an adjacent wetland to have a continuous surface water connection. And what we've heard is that the EPA is considering or beginning the process of drafting or doing rulemaking to define what is a continuous surface water connection. And if that rule leans toward a situation where it's much easier to say an adjacent wetland isn't waters of the United States because of the application of that definition, then yes, there's a possibility of a threat to protection of that area.
So that's an example of a salt marsh. Where would we find a freshwater marsh local to the Lowcountry?
It's predominantly everywhere. You're not going to find it in a highly paved urban area, but you will find it in all of our forested areas. And we have a significant amount of freshwater wetlands.
I see.
And it's all over our counties, all over our 8 coastal counties.
And so the threat is development.
Correct.
Okay, so, and there have been some developers that are not so sure that this new ruling is really going to benefit them. So what do you say to those developers who are thinking, to try to get permits and things, it's still going to be a challenge? Do you think that this is going to open up the door for further pursuit of allowing developers to have more of a clear path to obtaining permits?
Not in the state of South Carolina.
Okay.
And not in the 8 coastal counties within the state of South Carolina. The 8 coastal counties, which I think the article that you've referred to points out that the predominance of freshwater wetlands are in the 8 coastal counties. They have a certain set of rules that apply that would, if we weaken federal jurisdiction, the state will be able to step up and regulate those wetlands as waters of the state.
Well, and I was also going to ask about the Clean Water Act, and what does this spell for our drinking water here in South Carolina?
So the Clean Water Act, this portion of the Clean Water Act is waters of the U.S.
Yeah.
I don't imagine a drinking water impact from this rulemaking.
Okay, so what message do you want to give our viewers then as they kind of chew on this new Sackett decision?
The sky is not falling. We have not just the state of South Carolina with its broad definition of waters of the state, but we also have local governments who have stepped up and are protecting wetlands when they review development projects through extensive buffers.
Good way to end this segment on. Thank you for that, Mary. Appreciate your time.
Sure.
We're back after this.